Today, we will embark on a journey back through time to explore some of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries ever recorded. There have been pieces of evidence that once left the entire scientific community in awe, from legends of two-headed giants in the remote land of Patagonia to artifacts that seem to exist only in myth. Each discovery raises a host of new questions, forcing us to rethink what we thought we knew for sure about human history. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. The Death Mask of Tutankhamun. Throughout the entire history of archaeology, there have been few artifacts that have left as powerful an impression as the death mask of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Many people believe that this is one of the most beautiful and also the most enigmatic objects ever discovered in any Egyptian excavation. The ancient Egyptians always had an especially profound belief about death. They did not view death as an end, but instead as the beginning of a new journey into the next world. From the practice of mummification to the rituals for preparing for the afterlife, Egyptian civilization created a whole system of complex and highly symbolic ceremonies. Within that system, the death mask of Tutankhamun emerged as a sacred object that played a very special role. According to the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians, this mask was crafted with delicate and precise features to imitate the real face of the king, and then placed over the face of the mummy as it was put in the coffin. They believed that the mask would guide the soul of the deceased back to its resting place and help the soul recognize its own body when returning from the long journey in the afterlife. If the mummy was ever destroyed or lost, the mask itself would become a safe refuge for the soul. One particularly remarkable aspect of this mask lies in the way the ancient Egyptians created an idealized image for the king. It was the most perfect and beautiful face that the artisans could imagine. And then the entire mask was covered in pure gold to symbolize eternal endurance. In the case of Tutankhamun, this mask has truly survived through thousands of years. And even today, it still rests in a place of honor at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Whenever people look at the death mask of Tutankhamun, they do not just see the traces of a distant era, but they can also sense the mystery, the deep faith, and the haunting obsession with death that belonged to the ancient Egyptians. The inventions of the ancient Greeks. When people talk about the ancient Greeks, many immediately think of great legacies like the world's first democracy, the Olympic Games, legendary philosophers, and plays that have endured through the centuries. The Greeks also created a rich treasury of mythology and left a deep influence that can still be felt today. However, alongside their achievements in philosophy, art, and culture, the Greeks were also famous for being ahead of their time in technology and engineering. Among their many inventions, there were creations that might seem simple at first glance, but ended up changing the course of human history. One such invention is the odometer, a device for measuring distance. Today, every car is equipped with a small gauge to record how many miles it has traveled, but few realize that the principle behind it was first developed by a Greek inventor thousands of years ago. When building their roads, the Greeks needed a precise way to measure the length of each new route, so they devised a large wheel mounted on a cart. As the cart moved along the road, the turning of the wheel would record exactly how much distance they had constructed. This invention was later adopted by the Romans, who used it widely in building their vast network of roads. But the Greeks did not stop there. They went even further in their study of time. Before the Greek era, most civilizations only used sundials to estimate the hours of the day. But in Greece, scientists invented the water clock, known as the clepsydra. This was a device that used a steady flow of water passing through a system of gears to record each minute and hour far more accurately than a sundial. Water clocks were used not only in daily life, but also for some very unique purposes. In ancient Athens, the clepsydra was placed in brothels to limit the time of each customer, making sure that everyone had a fair share. In addition, water clocks were used in courtrooms to control the length of arguments and prevent trials from dragging on unnecessarily. Later on, a famous physician in Greece even used the clepsydra to measure his patients' heart rates, marking some of the first uses of technology in medicine. Inventions like the odometer and the clepsydra proved that the ancient Greeks were not only masters of philosophy and art, but also deeply practical thinkers, always aiming to improve human life with innovations that were truly ahead of their time. The vampire grave at Paranormal, Bulgaria. In the southern mountain region of Bulgaria archaeologists made a discovery that is both chilling and deeply intriguing: the so-called vampire grave at the Paranormal archaeological site. This is not only a famous historical location, but also a place filled with mysteries that have remained unsolved for thousands of years. During the excavation, experts uncovered the remains of a young man with some very unique and disturbing signs. His body had been pierced by a long iron blade driven straight through his chest, precisely through the heart. Beyond that, his left leg had been cut into 3 parts and neatly arranged next to his body. These details make it clear that this was not an ordinary murder, but rather a ritual designed to prevent the soul of the dead from returning to the world of the living in the form of a vampire. According to renowned archaeologist Professor Nikolai Ovcharov, this ritual stemmed from the deep-rooted beliefs and intense fears of medieval people when it came to vampires. In Europe, and especially in the Balkans, vampire legends were not just stories used to frighten children. Instead, they became an integral part of daily life and religious practice. People believed that when someone died under unusual circumstances, such as from a mysterious illness or a strange accident, they could very well return as a vampire later on. To protect the community from the threat of being drained of blood or haunted by supernatural forces, bizarre rituals had to be performed, and piercing the heart with a blade or severing the legs of the dead were just some of these practices. What is especially remarkable at Paranormal is that archaeologists also found other unusual graves, each bearing traces of rituals against evil spirits. In one grave, a woman and a child were buried in a pose resembling the image of the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus, possibly as a way of seeking divine protection. In many places, people even resorted to burying the dead in large jars, hoping that their souls would not be able to escape. Today, these ancient rituals may sound bizarre or even gruesome, but for the people of that era, it was the only way they knew to ward off the fear of things they simply could not understand with reason. And to this day, the vampire grave at Paranormal still stands as a vivid testament to the intersection of faith, fear, and the unsolved mysteries of human history. Vimana aircraft in ancient Indian literature. In the history of ancient India, there are few symbols as intriguing and controversial as the Vimana. These are the legendary flying machines that appear in carvings on the walls of Hindu temples. When exploring ancient texts like the Mahabharata or the Ramayana, it is easy to find descriptions of aerial vehicles, strange chariots used by the gods to travel across the heavens, or to participate in epic battles beyond the imagination of ordinary people. In these ancient records, the Vimana is often described as a flying chariot with the ability to travel swiftly through the layers of the sky. Some texts depict the Vimana as a palace floating in the air, fully equipped with rooms like a miniature castle. Certain carvings in Hindu temples show the Vimana as a chariot pulled by divine horses, dashing through the clouds at incredible speed. While the depictions may differ, what they all have in common is that the Vimana is always a vehicle of the gods, representing power, might, and a sense of wonder that surpassed human understanding at that time. Many scholars and researchers believe that the legends of the Vimana reflect the ancient Indian belief in the existence of supernatural technology. Some theories suggest that the descriptions of the Vimana may have come from real experiences, moments when ancient people witnessed unexplained phenomena, such as unidentified flying objects appearing in the sky. These experiences were woven into legendary tales, passed down from generation to generation. Yet to this day, archaeologists have not found any physical evidence for the real existence of Vimana aircraft. There are no mechanical models, no fragments of engines, and no technical documents ever discovered at ancient Indian archaeological sites. All descriptions of Vimana exist only as legend or lines of mythical text. Even so, the appeal of this legend has not diminished with time. It continues to inspire not only researchers but also those who believe that ancient people might have come into contact with extraterrestrial technology, or perhaps with another civilization that once existed in the distant past. Today, whenever people stand before the stone walls carved with images of Vimana at ancient Hindu temples, the same question always arises. Could it be that these stories of flying chariots are simply the product of imagination, or do they truly originate from a mysterious experience that people in ancient times could not explain? A bloody wedding in real life. The Glencoe Massacre. The story begins when the Campbell clan, a powerful family from the Scottish Highlands, came seeking shelter at the home of the MacDonald clan in the Glencoe Valley. Although the MacDonalds were not particularly close to the royal family, they still opened their doors to these unfamiliar guests, upholding their age-old tradition of hospitality. For nearly 2 weeks, the Campbells and their soldiers were well fed and warmly welcomed. But then, on a cold winter night, the 13th of February, 1692, tragedy struck. While everyone was still asleep, the guests suddenly turned into murderers. The Campbells and their men drew their weapons and killed at least 38 MacDonald men on the spot. Women and children, terrified, fled into the snow-covered hills to escape, but many of them could not survive the harsh cold of the highlands. Hundreds of years later, archaeologists excavated the ancient settlement of Octreoctan, which was once a bustling village at the foot of Glencoe. Through the remains, they discovered that after the massacre, some members of the MacDonald clan had survived and eventually returned to rebuild their lives on their ancestral land. The houses, barns, and small structures still bear the traces of a community that once persisted with remarkable resilience. However, by the 19th century, the collapse of the sheep farming economy forced the last residents to leave, turning the area into the deserted landscape it is today. If you think that the Glencoe massacre was the only event of its kind in Scottish history, you may be surprised. A similar event, known as the Black Dinner, took place in 1440. At that time, 2 Douglas brothers, just 16 and 10 years old, were invited to a banquet with King James II. But instead of a joyful feast, they were executed right at the dining table on charges of treason. Scottish history, for that reason, is forever marked by tragic tales of betrayed trust and the heavy price paid by those who put their faith in the wrong people. The first cannabis traders in history. If anyone thinks that cannabis is a modern phenomenon, they might want to look at human history from a different perspective. Thousands of years before the Silk Road ever connected east and west, there existed another special route that few people know about, the ancient trade route for cannabis. Today, archaeologists believe that it was actually the Yamnaya people who lived on the vast steppes of what is now Russia and Ukraine, who were the first to spread this plant across the Eurasian continent. Archaeological evidence shows that as far back as 11,500 years ago, traces of cannabis appeared scattered throughout both East Asia and Europe. Researchers have found pollen, plant fibers, and even burnt seeds preserved in ancient sites, proving that this plant was known to humans from a very early age. However, it was not until the Yamnaya people began to migrate and expand their territory that cannabis truly became widespread in East Asia. As these nomadic warriors carried cannabis with them on their journeys, the plant quickly spread across new lands. For ancient people, cannabis was not simply a plant used for leisure or relaxation. They knew how to make use of every benefit that cannabis could provide. From the stalks, they wove fabric and made extremely strong ropes, essential items for everyday life. The seeds were pressed for oil or used to create nutritious foods. The leaves and flowers of cannabis were used as folk remedies and, at times, became indispensable ingredients in religious rituals. Pot burials in Egypt. For many decades now, archaeologists have repeatedly discovered a very special form of burial in ancient Egypt, graves in which the deceased were interred inside large ceramic jars, a practice known as pot burials. This form of burial appeared thousands of years ago and still raises many unanswered questions for modern scholars. What makes these graves especially remarkable is the method of interment itself. Most of these large jars were used to bury infants or young children. In many cases, archaeologists have also found adult remains, with the bodies carefully folded to fit into the cramped space inside the pot. Usually, the small skeletons of children lie peacefully within the large clay jar, but when it comes to adults, the bones are bent in an unnatural way so that they can fit inside. For many years, experts believed that pot burials were simply the choice of poorer families who could not afford traditional coffins, so they used available jars as substitutes. However, the latest research has revealed a completely different explanation. According to new findings, placing the dead inside a jar was not merely a practical solution, but also a spiritual ritual rich in symbolism about rebirth. Scientists today believe that the ceramic jar symbolized a mother's womb. When a soul left this world, it was returned to the mother's belly made of earth, completing a sacred cycle of life and death. The act of placing the dead inside a jar was meant to comfort the soul and make its journey to the afterlife easier. In particular, many jars have been found with their mouths deliberately broken, like the gesture of cracking an eggshell, symbolizing the soul's release. Though interpretations may differ depending on the period, it is clear that pot burials are a unique cultural practice expressing a deep connection between people and the cycle of reincarnation. Today, whenever archaeologists uncover another burial jar like this, they not only open a new page on ancient customs, but also gain a deeper appreciation for the profound philosophy of life held by the ancient Egyptians. Ancient plastic surgery in India. When people think of cosmetic surgery, most assume it is a modern achievement of medical science. However, few realize that techniques of plastic surgery actually appeared thousands of years ago in ancient India, closely tied to the name of Sushruta, the father of plastic surgery. Sushruta lived in the 6th century BCE, during a period when Indian civilization was making significant advances in both medicine and other scientific fields. Sushruta was the author of one of the world's oldest medical texts, the Sushruta Samhita. In this work, he described in detail more than 1,100 different diseases, provided guidance on the use of hundreds of medicinal plants, and recorded meticulous instructions for many surgical procedures. Sushruta is especially well known for giving the first recorded descriptions of nasal reconstruction surgery, also called rhinoplasty. This became the foundation for modern cosmetic surgery techniques. In ancient India, having one's nose cut off was a severe punishment given to those convicted of theft or adultery. To restore the function and appearance of the face for those who had suffered this fate, Sushruta developed a method that involved taking a thick flap of skin from the forehead and using it to reconstruct the patient's nose. This approach not only helped restore physical appearance, but also gave these individuals back their confidence and a chance to reintegrate into society. Despite the very limited medical conditions of the time, the ability to perform reconstructive surgeries demonstrated that ancient Indian medicine possessed knowledge and skills far ahead of its era. Thanks to the records and techniques left behind by Sushruta, humanity took a great leap forward in the development of medicine and healthcare, laying the groundwork for the remarkable progress seen in cosmetic and reconstructive surgery today. Greek philosophers and the concept of extraterrestrials. Many people assume that ideas about an infinite universe or the existence of extraterrestrial life only emerged in modern times, as science and space technology have rapidly advanced. In reality, however, these bold thoughts first appeared thousands of years ago, originating with the ancient Greek philosophers. Among them, names like Anaxagoras, Epicurus, and Lucretius stand out for their theories about a vast, limitless universe and the possible existence of other worlds beyond Earth. Anaxagoras was one of the first philosophers to suggest that the universe did not consist of only the Earth, but could also contain other celestial bodies and life forms, existing far beyond what human eyes could see. Following in his footsteps, Epicurus developed the idea of an infinite universe, where there was not just one world, but countless others, each potentially harboring life, perhaps even humans or beings entirely different from us. The Roman philosopher Lucretius agreed with this perspective, believing that the universe held many planets, each home to different species, with a variety of shapes and customs. These pioneering ideas laid the groundwork for modern concepts of the multiverse and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Although there was no scientific evidence available at the time, Greek philosophers were courageous enough to imagine a universe so vast that it far surpassed human understanding. Their ideas have endured through the ages and have deeply influenced modern scientists, philosophers, and even science fiction writers. It can be said that as far back as ancient Greece, people were already asking profound questions about their place in the universe and about the possible existence of civilizations beyond Earth. This shows that humanity's spirit of curiosity and desire to explore has never had any boundaries. The ancient refrigerator, Yakhchal, of Persia. Around 2,400 years ago, in the land of ancient Persia, people invented an extremely clever device to cope with the intense summer heat of the desert. This was the ancient refrigerator, known as the Yakhchal. The word Yakhchal in Persian means ice pit, and it is one of the oldest refrigeration systems ever known to humanity. A Yakhchal is a structure made of clay and brick, shaped like a giant dome rising above the dry desert landscape. Each Yakhchal could reach up to 60 feet in height, with its domed top protruding above ground and a deep, spacious chamber below used for storing ice and food. The construction techniques for these ancient refrigerators relied on a combination of natural insulating materials and an ingenious ventilation system. The thick walls, made from a mixture of clay, ash, egg whites, goat hair, and coconut fibers, were designed to keep the outside heat at bay and maintain a low temperature inside. In winter, the Persians would cut large blocks of ice from nearby rivers and streams and store them inside the yakhchal. Thanks to its special structure and perfect insulation, the ice could be kept cold throughout the summer, allowing people to cool their drinks, preserve food, or even create cold desserts for the nobility. But the yakhchal was more than just a cold storage facility. It stands as a testament to the ingenuity and scientific skill of ancient people in adapting to harsh environments. Long before electricity, air conditioning, or modern refrigerators, our ancestors knew how to harness nature and apply engineering techniques to meet their everyday needs. Today, some ancient yakhchals still exist in Iran, standing as enduring symbols of human intelligence and creativity throughout history. These structures do more than tell the story of the past. They inspire future generations with the timeless value of human innovation. Glastonbury Tor and the legend of King Arthur. Nestled in the peaceful Somerset countryside of England, Glastonbury Tor stands not only as a striking hill amid rolling fields, but also as a place forever linked to one of Western history's most enduring legends, the story of King Arthur. Local residents, along with many researchers, believe that Glastonbury Tor is the final resting place of King Arthur himself. Yet, to this day, no definitive evidence has ever been found to prove that Arthur truly existed as a historical figure, or that he was buried here. Decades of excavations have yielded more questions than answers, but the legend continues to live on in the hearts and minds of the English people. Glastonbury Tor is not only associated with Arthur, this hill carries with it a long and ancient history stretching back thousands of years. Archaeologists have discovered traces of prehistoric communities here, with stone tools dating to the Neolithic era. In Roman times, Glastonbury Tor maintained its importance, as evidenced by the many artifacts unearthed beneath its surface. During the Middle Ages, the site became even more prominent with the construction of St. Michael's Tower atop the summit. From the 12th century onward, the hill's aura of mystery only grew with the rumor that monks had unearthed the coffins of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, then held an elaborate funeral in front of a crowd of witnesses. However, most modern historians believe this story may have been little more than a clever strategy to attract pilgrims and enhance the region's fame. Even if historical fact cannot fill the gaps left by legend, Glastonbury Tor remains a powerful symbol of the intersection between history and faith. At the foot of this hill, generations of Britons and visitors from around the world still search for answers to the enduring mystery of King Arthur. The Three Witches of Bochnia, dark magic in Poland. Many people may be surprised to learn that Poland, too, endured a dark era lasting for centuries, an age when thousands were accused and executed on suspicion of witchcraft. One of the most haunting stories from this period is the execution of 3 women in the town of Bochnia in 1679. According to historical records, the 3 women were accused of carrying out brutal witchcraft rituals. The charges included drinking the blood of infants and using the bodies of babies as talismans for sinister purposes. These accusations were so severe that they sent shockwaves through the entire community. When brought to trial, the witches were given no chance to defend themselves. Under the pressure of torture and the weight of the era's superstitions, they were sentenced to be burned alive in the central market square of Bochnia. Recently, archaeologists excavating the old market square of Bochnia uncovered 2 charred human skeletons, burned by intense heat. These remains are believed to belong to 2 of the 3 women executed so long ago. The discovery of these bones not only offers tangible proof of an event that has become part of local legend, but also serves as a poignant reminder of a painful chapter in history. The tragedy at Bochnia was not an isolated incident. Witch hunts in Poland continued into the 18th century, much longer than in most other European countries. During this period, between 3,000 and 4,000 people were sentenced to death on charges connected to dark magic. Many of these victims were simply caught in the crossfire or exploited to settle personal and communal disputes. Today, as scientists search for the traces of Poland's executed witches, they are not only seeking historical truth, they are also reminding us of the power of collective fear and the heartbreaking consequences it can bring to any society. The Forgotten Palace beneath Beijing's Olympic Village. Sometimes, history is discovered in the most unexpected places, even directly beneath the foundations of modern structures. This was exactly what happened in China in 2015, as Beijing prepared to host the Winter Olympics. During site surveys for the construction of the new Olympic Village, archaeologists accidentally uncovered the remnants of a once magnificent summer palace, linked to a long-forgotten dynasty in Chinese history. The archaeological site lies in Taizicheng, a small village on the outskirts of present-day Beijing. As builders carried out geological surveys and trial excavations, they were astonished to find ancient foundations, collapsed walls, and a trove of relics buried deep underground. Analysis revealed that these were the remains of a summer palace that once belonged to Emperor Wanyan Jing, a renowned ruler of the Jin dynasty, which governed northern China during the 12th and 13th centuries. This summer palace served as a retreat for rest, hunting, and important ceremonies for the emperor and his court. Located near the ancient capital of Beijing, it was once a center of power and culture during the height of the Jin dynasty. However, as time passed and history moved forward, the palace was gradually abandoned and faded from memory as subsequent dynasties rose to power. The discovery prompted city officials in Beijing to alter the layout of the Olympic Village in order to protect this valuable heritage. The site was also transformed into an archaeological park, allowing athletes and visitors the opportunity to experience Chinese culture and history within the heart of an international sporting event. Today, the remains of Taizicheng's summer palace stand not only as a testament to the splendor of a vanished dynasty, but also as a reminder that, no matter how many new structures humanity builds, countless mysteries still lie hidden beneath the layers of earth, waiting to be uncovered. The mysterious tunnels beneath the city of Ani, Armenia. Hidden along the borderlands of Armenia, the ancient city of Ani was once one of the brightest centers of the medieval world. The ruined remnants atop its windswept hill have long drawn the attention of archaeologists, historians, and all those who are fascinated by mysteries. Yet, it was not until the late 19th century, when excavations expanded, that a truly extraordinary secret began to surface. A vast underground tunnel system lying deep beneath the earth of Ani. No one could have imagined that beneath layers of rubble and wild grass lay an enormous network containing more than 800 underground structures, from stables and monasteries to crypts and even homes where people once lived. Many rooms are connected by passageways, with tunnels stretching like a labyrinth, featuring countless corners and branches that lead to spacious halls or small, hidden chambers. On the surviving stone walls, ancient Armenian inscriptions can still be seen, proving that these structures have endured for thousands of years. The underground works of Ani are far more extensive than most ancient cities of the same era. However, to this day, the reason why people in the past invested so much effort in building such a complex subterranean system remains a major unsolved mystery. Some researchers believe these underground spaces were used as shelters during times of war or as protection against sudden invasions. Others suspect that they may have served as religious centers or networks dedicated to secret rituals of the medieval clergy. Today, although most of Ani has fallen into ruin, its underground tunnels continue to challenge archaeologists and captivate those who love to uncover the secrets of history. The mummy with a golden tongue in Egypt. Among the most unusual archaeological discoveries in Egypt, few are as remarkable as the case of a mummy buried with a golden tongue. Archaeologists uncovered this artifact at the site of Taposiris Magna, an ancient cemetery located near Egypt's northern coast. The mummy, estimated to be around 2,000 years old, dates back to the period when Egypt was under Greek and Roman rule. What truly astonished the experts was the fact that the deceased's natural tongue had been replaced with a thin sheet of gold, carefully crafted to fit precisely within the mouth. According to the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, this was not merely a decorative gesture, but reflected a profound ancient belief. The people of that time believed that the golden tongue would allow the dead to speak with the god Osiris as their soul entered the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian belief, the judgment of the soul after death played a decisive role in determining one's ultimate fate. The deceased had to answer to the gods, especially Osiris, about their deeds in life. If they could not speak, their soul would be hindered, unable to continue on to eternity. For this reason, the golden tongue was not only a symbol of communication, but also a key to open the door to a new world. The discovery of a mummy with a golden tongue at Taposiris Magna is a vivid testament to both the creativity and the power of faith in ancient Egyptian culture. Even today, such rituals continue to spark curiosity and raise unanswered questions about the spiritual world and the deep-rooted beliefs of the Egyptian people. The relics of the Buddha, ashes of Siddhartha Gautama, China. Among the most intriguing archaeological discoveries in China A few have captured the attention of religious and historical scholars as much as the finding of a porcelain box said to contain the ashes and tooth relics of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. This event took place at an ancient temple in rural China, where archaeologists unearthed an exquisite white glazed ceramic box. Inside, the box carefully preserved fragments of ash and several small bone pieces, which people in antiquity believed belonged to the Buddha himself. Alongside the box, experts also uncovered more than 260 ancient Buddha statues buried within the temple site. All of these artifacts date back over 1,000 years. However, modern science has yet to conclusively determine whether the ashes and tooth relics inside the porcelain box truly belonged to Siddhartha Gautama. Historical records indicate that after the Buddha's passing, his ashes and relics were distributed to many locations, but whether these items are genuine remains a matter of ongoing debate. Archaeologists emphasize that the greatest value of this discovery lies not only in the authenticity of the objects, but also in the faith, reverence, and religious devotion that spread throughout ancient Asia. Even as final verification remains elusive, the discovery of a porcelain box said to contain the Buddha's ashes and tooth relics, along with hundreds of Buddha statues, has opened a window into the spiritual, artistic, and devotional life of ancient peoples. This is not only evidence of the enduring power of Buddhism in human civilization, but also a reminder that certain mysteries of history will continue to fascinate generations to come. The ancient Chinese culture of Xiama. Around 40,000 years ago, in the area of Xiama Bay in China, prehistoric people demonstrated remarkable creativity by extracting and producing red pigment from the mineral ochre. This represents one of the earliest traces of technology and human ingenuity in ancient China, marking an important step forward in the history of prehistoric culture and technique. Archaeologists have discovered numerous stone tools at the Xiama Bay site, along with evidence of ochre mineral use. What is especially notable is that the ancient people did not merely collect ochre from nature. They knew how to process it into red powders of varying shades and intensities. The large quantities of pigment found on the floors of ancient dwellings indicate that producing red pigment was not just an individual activity, but had become part of communal life. The production of red ochre powder was not only the foundation for prehistoric arts, such as cave painting or body decoration, but also points to a certain level of social organization and abstract thinking among these early humans. Remarkably, at the Xiama Bay site, researchers found few signs of other technologies, such as bone tools or ornaments. This suggests that this ancient community focused its efforts on making and using red pigment as a distinctive cultural trait. It is precisely this characteristic that makes Xiama Bay stand out in the broader picture of human development. The discovery of the ochre culture at Xiama Bay does more than help us imagine the daily lives of prehistoric people. It also raises fascinating questions about how technology, art, and spirituality evolved together, laying the very first foundations for human civilization. The legend of the two-headed giant Captua in Patagonia. Throughout history, nearly every culture has woven legends about giants. The Greeks spoke of the mighty Titans, Norse mythology told of frost giants, China had Pangu, and the Bible mentions both Goliath and the mysterious Nephilim. Yet among all these stories, perhaps nothing is quite as strange as the tale of Captua, the two-headed giant of Patagonia. According to enduring tales, Captua was no ordinary giant. He was a twin giant with two heads atop a single massive body. At one time, it was believed that Captua stood 12 feet tall, a height almost beyond imagination. This legend captivated many in the West, especially after stories spread about European explorers who reportedly encountered unusually tall tribes in Patagonia during the 16th century. While the Tehuelche people of Patagonia were indeed taller than most Europeans of that era, the figure of 12 feet is clearly an exaggeration. Still, this did nothing to restrain the imaginations of explorers and Western storytellers, who continued to spin fantastic tales of a land populated by giants. In one of the most famous versions, around the year 1673, Spanish sailors were said to have captured Captua and tied him to a ship's mast as a prisoner. However, the giant broke free, leading to a violent struggle, and was eventually killed by a spear thrust through his chest. His body, according to legend, was then taken to England and later to the United States, where it became a shocking centerpiece in bizarre exhibitions. Another variation suggests that Captua was already dead when discovered on the shore, his body pierced with spears. then mummified by Paraguayans and used in religious ceremonies. Not long after, the English captain George Bickle is said to have found and brought the two-headed corpse back to his homeland. In the end, Captua made his way into museums, sideshows, and gradually became one of those great mysteries that spark endless curiosity. Whichever version you believe, the reality is that modern scientists agree the existence of a two-headed giant is virtually impossible. To this day, the tallest confirmed person in history is Robert Wadlow, who stood 8 feet 11 inches and died young due to health problems. Cases of conjoined twins with 2 heads and 1 body are extremely rare, and most do not survive to adulthood, let alone grow into a giant warrior. The so-called Captua mummy was, in fact, once part of the circus collection of Barnum, the famous master of oddities in the 19th century. Barnum was notorious for hoaxes like the Fiji mermaid and the jackalope. At the time, there was even an art called gaff taxidermy, where animal remains were stitched together to create imaginary creatures meant to draw crowds of the curious. Today, most scientists agree that the Captua mummy is simply a product of the strange art of fabricated taxidermy, likely made purely for profit. Nevertheless, the legend of the two-headed giant in Patagonia continues to live on, remaining a part of those mysterious tales that humanity has never ceased to find fascinating. The oldest shark attack victim in history, Japan. In the field of archaeology, there are discoveries that not only recount stories of life, but also expose terrifying moments of death in the distant past. One such case was uncovered by scientists in Japan, where they discovered the remains of a man who lived about 3,000 years ago, bearing nearly 800 wounds inflicted by a shark. According to researchers, this skeleton is among the clearest and earliest archaeological evidence in the world of a shark attack victim. When experts first examined the remains unearthed from the Tsukumo shell burial ground, they noticed that the man's body appeared to have been torn apart by hundreds of jagged marks, each characteristic of shark teeth. In total, scientists counted around 790 wounds, large and small, scattered across the bones, enough to conjure the image of a horrifying underwater struggle for survival. Remarkably, the man had not only suffered a ferocious attack, but also showed signs of a desperate fight for his life. Archaeologists found that his left hand had been completely severed, likely as he tried to defend himself when the shark struck. In addition, both of his legs were badly damaged, further illustrating the severity of the injuries he endured. This discovery is of enormous scientific value, as it documents the oldest known shark attack victim in human history. More importantly, it helps us understand the dangers our ancestors once faced in their harsh struggle for survival. The Pit of Severed Hands at Avaris, Egypt. Pits filled with human hands were discovered near the throne in the ancient city of Avaris, the center of power for the Hyksos dynasty some 3,600 years ago. This discovery astonished archaeologists, as it was the first time that rituals once known only from ancient texts were confirmed in real life. Scientists found 4 deep pits within the grounds of the ancient palace, 2 of them located right in front of the throne room, where King Khayan, the most powerful ruler of the Hyksos, once held court. Each pit contained a single right hand, carefully and separately buried. The other 2 pits were found on the outskirts of the palace compound, this time containing a total of 14 right hands, all belonging to adults. Remarkably, not a single left hand was found, only right hands, most of them unusually large. Based on ancient Egyptian texts, researchers believe this is the first physical evidence of a ritual previously described only in hieroglyphs, never before confirmed. Egyptian warriors, after victory on the battlefield, would cut off the right hand of their enemies and present it to the king in exchange for gold or other valuable rewards. The removal of the right hand was not just to prove military achievement, but also carried symbolic meaning. It stripped the defeated of their power, strength, and honor. For archaeologists, the discovery of these hand pits represents a major breakthrough, finally confirming what had previously existed only in ancient writing. The hands, buried in silence for thousands of years, now tell a bloody story of power, war, and glory in the age of the Hyksos. It is also a reminder that behind every victory lie nameless tragedies recorded by history, sometimes only through severed body parts and rituals that the modern world can scarcely imagine. The Liber Linteus manuscript, an Etruscan mystery. In the world of archaeology, Few artifacts are as intriguing and enigmatic as the Liber Linteus, the longest surviving Etruscan manuscript known to exist. Written in the 3rd century BCE, this text belonged to the Etruscan civilization, a once flourishing culture in what is now Italy, long before the Romans came to dominate Europe. What makes the Liber Linteus especially remarkable is that it was not discovered in an ancient library or grand tomb, but emerged in a most unexpected and unusual form. In 1848, in the city of Zagreb, Croatia, researchers purchased an Egyptian mummy from Alexandria. After bringing it back to the local archaeological museum, they noticed that the mummy was wrapped in linen, inscribed with mysterious writing that initially went unrecognized. It was only upon closer inspection that experts realized the mummy's wrappings were, in fact, an ancient manuscript written in the Etruscan language, a language that, to this day, remains largely undeciphered. The text was named the Liber Linteus, or the Linen Book. It is one of the very few surviving documents in Etruscan, a language lost with the decline of its civilization thousands of years ago. Linguists believe that, based on the portions already translated, the Liber Linteus appears to be some kind of ritual calendar. The manuscript likely records festivals, important religious ceremonies, and rules for worship in Etruscan society. Yet, the majority of its content remains beyond our ability to understand, as so much about the Etruscan language is still a mystery. The existence of the Liber Linteus offers hope to researchers seeking to learn more about the culture, religion, and society of the Etruscans. It is also a remarkable story of an ancient manuscript's journey from Mediterranean burial rites to becoming mummy wrappings in Egypt, and finally resting in a European museum. To this day, the Liber Linteus remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, reminding us of the shadows that still linger in the history of humankind. Satanic symbols at Oia Antica, Italy. Near the city of Rome, an archaeological team was conducting excavations at the ruins of an ancient Roman house in Oia Antica. When winter ended, they returned to the site after a period of closure and immediately sensed that something unusual was happening there. As they inspected the ancient stone walls, archaeologists discovered a series of strange drawings and symbols that did not belong to the Roman era. What concerned the experts most were numerous satanic symbols, with the number 666 prominently carved into the ancient stones. In addition, feathers were scattered across the ground, along with the remnants of extinguished campfires. These signs indicated that someone had been using the area for mysterious nighttime rituals, taking advantage of the absence of site supervision. After carrying out an investigation, the archaeologists confirmed that these symbols were not part of the original ancient remains, but were in fact the work of modern-day vandals, likely members of satanic groups. It is probable that, during the closure of the site, certain individuals slipped in to perform extreme religious rites, or simply to attract attention by defacing the ruins and lighting fires in the midst of this historic location. Regardless of the motivation, such acts have had a significant negative impact on the archaeological and historical value of the site. This incident has only reinforced the experts' conviction about the importance of protecting ancient monuments from vandalism and the vital role of community awareness in preserving our shared human heritage. While the satanic symbols and strange markings do not belong to the distant past, they serve as a reminder that every piece of historical heritage is vulnerable if it is not cared for and safeguarded. Sacred chickens in ancient England. When thinking of animals closely linked to England's history, many people immediately picture horses, cattle, or hunting dogs. Yet, modern archaeology has revealed a surprising truth. The chicken, so familiar in rural life today, once held an exceptionally special place in the culture and beliefs of ancient Britain. For centuries, archaeologists have continuously uncovered chicken skeletons buried underground at Iron Age, Roman, and even Saxon sites throughout England. What is surprising is that most of these skeletons are remarkably intact, showing no signs of slaughter or food preparation. Scientific analysis indicates that most of these chickens lived for 3, even 4 years, far longer than modern chickens, which are usually kept for only a few months before being used for meat. Experts believe that ancient Britons did not raise chickens primarily for their meat or eggs, as most other civilizations did. Instead, chickens were seen as sacred beings, possessing spiritual value and deeply intertwined with religious practices, traditions, and community life. In sacrificial rituals, chickens were used to pray for good harvests, protect health, ward off bad luck, or even as offerings to local deities. In addition, carefully selected roosters served as fighting cocks in competitions, not only as entertainment, but as symbols of divine power and the owner's fortune. Many chicken burials at archaeological sites were conducted with great care, sometimes with a sense of ceremony comparable to human graves. Chickens were often laid on their side, wings folded neatly, with the entire skeleton left undisturbed. In some special cases, chickens were even buried with small objects like necklaces, stones, or pottery fragments, showing that they were truly respected and treated as members of the community. Experts suggest that the belief in the chicken's spiritual power may have originated from its ability to call the sun each morning, symbolizing new beginnings and the continuity of life. Moreover, the crowing of a rooster at dawn was thought to warn away evil spirits, bringing peace and protection to the entire village. Beyond this, chickens were also symbols of social status. Raising beautiful, healthy birds or owning famous fighting cocks could bring respect and prestige to their owners. Some traditional festivals included cockfighting tournaments, where the victorious bird and its owner were honored by the whole community. All these discoveries have completely changed previous assumptions about the role of chickens in English history. For the ancients, chickens were not merely livestock for food, but sacred creatures, bridges between the human world and the divine, symbols of luck, vitality, and communal strength. As their skeletons rest beneath the earth, they continue to tell the story of a world where every creature carried meanings far beyond what we see in daily life. The world's oldest ritual in Botswana. When we think of human history, we often picture the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or China with their magnificent archaeological legacies. Yet one discovery that has completely reshaped our understanding of the origins of human spirituality was made in a place seemingly wild and remote, the Kalahari Desert of Botswana, Africa. Archaeologist Sheila Coulson from the University of Oslo made a remarkable discovery in a secluded cave, nestled among mountains known by locals as the Mountains of the Gods. Inside the cave, her research team uncovered a massive rock carved in the shape of a snake's head, a creature long associated with power, rebirth, and mystery in many ancient cultures. Notably, it was not only the shape of the rock, but also the way natural light played across its surface that made the stone appear to move, enhancing the mystical aura of the site. Other artifacts found in and around the cave, including spearheads, stone tools, and small objects, were all dated to as far back as 70,000 years ago. Scientists determined that these items were used in religious rituals, making them far older than any previously known ceremonial sites, predating the famous archaeological remains of Europe and Asia by as much as 30,000 years. The discoveries in the Botswana cave have not only changed our understanding of when humans began to practice religious rituals, but also revealed that our ancestors were gathering for communal activities to express faith and reverence for supernatural forces from the very dawn of time. The carving of the snake's head, the careful placement of ritual objects, and the holding of sacred ceremonies in this cave all show that, even at the very beginning of history, humans had a deep need to search for meaning, connect with the universe, and pay homage to powers beyond their understanding. Today, as archaeologists continue to investigate the traces left behind in Botswana, each new find sheds more light on the spiritual journey of humankind. The story of the snake-headed rock and the world's oldest known ritual reminds us that belief and spirituality are not just products of civilization, but have been an inseparable part of human nature since the very beginning. The Uzalo Twin Watchtowers in the Argonne Gorge, set amid the wild and rugged Cheta region, the Argonne Gorge has long been a crossroads of cultures and a silent witness to countless chapters of history. For centuries, this gorge served as a vital passage for caravans, merchants, and nomadic tribes journeying through the landscape. The area contains about 600 archaeological sites, including ancient caves, ancestral tombs from the 10th century, cave burials, stone crypts, and the ruins of crumbled castle complexes. This land was once home to indigenous tribes who used the steep cliffs and dense forests for shelter and survival against harsh natural conditions. What truly sets the Argonne Gorge apart from other regions is its system of ancient watchtowers, most famously, the Uzalo Twin Towers. These two imposing towers stand at a crucial position, guarding the only accessible route through the gorge. Typically built atop high peaks or natural stone bridges, the towers stand out dramatically against the majestic backdrop of Cheta. Known to the ancients as Vina Towers, each one rises between 9 and 23 meters, equivalent to about 3 to 7 stories of a modern building. Constructed entirely from solid stone, With massive blocks stacked using exceptionally sturdy techniques, the Vina Towers have withstood the test of thousands of years. Some Vina Towers served as dwellings for families or small communities, especially in villages such as Urs and Nikoi. These towers featured multiple levels, windows, and staircases, providing for daily living as well as defense against external threats. Many others functioned as military outposts or watchtowers, strategically positioned to control roads, trails, and mountain passes. This allowed the sentinels to keep a close eye on all movement and quickly alert the community to any danger, whether from invaders or bandits. The Vina Towers were not only fortresses, but also symbols of communal power and strength. The Usalo Twin Watchtowers in particular, known locally as the Great Houses Guarding the Gorge, are nearly 900 years old, though the oldest Vina Towers in the region may date back more than 2,000 years. The two Usalo Towers are carved directly from the solid rock of the gorge, making them an inseparable part of the landscape. Their unique design ensures that no one can pass through the Argonne Gorge without crossing or being seen by these massive towers. Whether merchants, travelers, or armies passed by, they were always aware that their every move was monitored and tightly controlled by the watchtowers above. Beyond their military value, the Vina Towers reflect the ingenuity and craftsmanship of ancient architects and builders. Constructing nearly 20-meter-high stone towers atop mountains in such challenging conditions is clear evidence of their understanding of materials, engineering techniques, and labor organization. Remarkably, after centuries of weather, rain, storms, and even earthquakes, many of these towers still stand firm, often showing little damage. Today, visitors to the Cheta region are not only amazed by the natural beauty of the Argonne Gorge, but also sense the enduring spirit and resilience of the communities that once thrived here. The Usalo Watchtowers, together with hundreds of other Vina Towers, are more than just architectural relics. They are emblems of a deep-seated determination to defend the homeland, as well as symbols of human adaptability and limitless creativity throughout history. They remind us that, in every era, intelligence and courage can create monuments that endure through the ages. Stone Age weaving techniques. Kataloyuk, Turkey. When we think of the Stone Age, most people imagine a primitive world where humans survived mainly by hunting and gathering, with little in the way of advanced craftsmanship. Yet archaeological discoveries at the site of Catalhoyuk in Turkey have completely transformed this perspective. Here, scientists have uncovered traces of weaving that date back as much as 8,500 years, an astonishing number by any standard. According to experts, nearly 9,000 years ago, the people of Catalhoyuk, the largest city of the Neolithic period, had already learned to use plant fibers to weave textiles. Before these discoveries, researchers believed that ancient people mainly used wool or flax for clothing, since both materials are relatively easy to find and process. However, the textiles unearthed at Catalhoyuk were actually woven from bast fibers, plant fibers taken from the bark of trees such as oak or other woody plants. While these fibers were typically used for making rope or cordage, the prehistoric inhabitants of Catalhoyuk developed the technique of transforming tree bark fibers into clothing and everyday items. Extracting fibers from tree bark, processing them, spinning them into thread, and then weaving them into fabric required a level of knowledge and skill far more sophisticated than previously imagined for Stone Age humans. This discovery demonstrates that, even in the distant past, our ancestors possessed remarkable creativity and scientific understanding applied to daily life. They not only crafted tools and built shelters, but also found ways to utilize natural resources to produce the essentials they needed. Looking at the fragments of cloth that have survived for thousands of years at Catalhoyuk, we can truly appreciate the dexterity, perseverance, and boundless imagination of the ancients. These innovations laid the groundwork for the textile industry that would come later, and they help us better understand the remarkable progress of human civilization during prehistoric times. The ancient winemaking industry in Israel. In the field of modern archaeology, one of the most striking discoveries is the recently unearthed ancient winemaking complex at the city of Yavne, Israel. This site dates back over 1,500 years to the Byzantine period and stands as clear evidence of the remarkable development of winemaking in the ancient Mediterranean world. Archaeologists have found 5 large grape pressing vats, numerous storage rooms, and kilns used for producing the ceramic jars needed to store and transport the wine. In addition, tens of thousands of fragments from amphorae, jars, and wine vessels have been excavated, attesting to the immense scale of production. Based on calculations and research, experts estimate that this facility could have produced up to 2 million liters of wine each year, an extraordinary figure, far exceeding that of many modern wineries. What is even more remarkable is that the wine produced at Yavne was not just for local consumption, but was exported across the Mediterranean. This wine, known as Gaza wine, was famous for its light flavor and pale color, and was especially favored by the wealthy and royal classes. Amphorae bearing the names Gaza or Ashkelon have been found throughout the Mediterranean world, from Egypt and Greece to Italy, and even farther afield. This discovery not only showcases the skills and knowledge of ancient Israelite winemakers, but also reflects the vital importance of winemaking to the economy and social life of the time. Wine was not merely a beverage, it was a nutritional staple, often replacing water, which was frequently contaminated in antiquity. Thanks to large-scale production and export systems like the one at Yavne, Israel's wine played a key role in trade, festivals, and the spiritual life of ancient Mediterranean civilizations. Leonardo da Vinci's mechanical robot. Around the year 1495, during the dazzling heights of the European Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci astonished the nobility of Milan by unveiling an invention that was centuries ahead of its time, the mechanical knight. This was one of the earliest examples of a robot in human history. Leonardo is not only famous for iconic paintings like the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, but also as a genius inventor, always eager to explore the limits of technology and engineering. Leonardo's mechanical knight was designed to resemble an armored medieval warrior. He employed a complex system of pulleys, gears, and cables to operate the joints of the arms, legs, and even the head of the robot. When demonstrated at a festival in Milan, the machine could stand up, sit down, raise its arms, and lift its visor just like a real knight, leaving the audience of the time amazed and deeply curious about its inner workings. For centuries, the mechanical knight existed only in Leonardo's sketches and notes. It was not until 2007 that modern researchers, using his original drawings, managed to reconstruct this remarkable machine. Once completed, the mechanical robot performed exactly as described in the ancient manuscripts, every part moving smoothly, powered solely by the system of pulleys and cables, without any electricity or modern engines. This proved that Leonardo da Vinci possessed a vision far ahead of his era, laying the groundwork for the field of automation and robotics that would develop centuries later. Today, Leonardo's mechanical knight stands not only as a testament to the boundless creativity of humanity, but also as a reminder that many ideas we assume to be pure fantasy were, in fact, explored and developed by great minds like Leonardo da Vinci hundreds of years ago. The severed human head in Brazil. Deep within the dense tropical forests of Brazil, archaeologists made a shocking and unsettling discovery: a human head dating back 9,000 years, accompanied by 2 severed hands placed over the eye sockets of the skull. This artifact was unearthed in the Lapa do Santo cave, one of the most important archaeological sites in South America, known for bearing traces of the continent's earliest indigenous inhabitants. When scientists discovered these unusual remains, they immediately realized this was not a typical case of decapitation or the result of intertribal violence. What drew their attention most was the way the 2 hands had been cut from the body and carefully arranged over the face of the skull, each hand covering one eye, creating an incredibly haunting image. Researchers believe this precise arrangement is evidence of a sacrificial ritual or a spiritual ceremony practiced by ancient native peoples. According to archaeologists, this ritual may have been linked to beliefs about the soul's journey or the cycle of reincarnation. The indigenous people may have believed that covering the dead person's eyes with their own hands would protect the soul from evil forces, or prevent the deceased from witnessing something in the afterlife. It could also have been a way for the community to show respect to the departed, or to prevent the soul from returning to the earthly realm in another form. This discovery has expanded scientists' understanding of the funerary rituals and complex spiritual life of South America's earliest residents. Every such relic, even just a head and a pair of hands, remains a key to unlocking the great mysteries of ancient civilization. It reminds us that the prehistoric world always held a strange yet familiar blend of fear and faith, much like the hopes and anxieties of modern humanity. The pre-human technology hypothesis. Pre-human scientists. In recent years, some scientists at NASA have raised a bold and challenging question that pushes against the traditional understanding of humanity's past. They suggest that there may once have existed an advanced technological civilization on Earth, long before humans ever appeared. This hypothesis is based on the idea that, During the hundreds of millions of years of our planet's history, there could have been species that developed intelligence, technology, and complex societies, only to vanish entirely without leaving behind easily recognizable traces. These scientists point out that modern humans have built industrial society for only about the last 300 years, while Earth itself has existed for hundreds of millions of years, enduring countless changes in geology, climate, and life. If there truly was a technological civilization predating humanity, all remnants of their materials, structures, or devices could have been erased by time, natural decay, geological events, or buried deep beneath the Earth's crust. So far, scientists have not found any conclusive evidence to support the existence of such a pre-human civilization. There are no archaeological remains, no machines or tools, and no signs of advanced technology attributed to any prehistoric species other than humans. Nevertheless, this idea remains a topic that stimulates curiosity and debate within the scientific community. It forces us to question the limits of our current knowledge and to consider what might have been lost to the depths of the Earth's ancient past. Even though it remains only a hypothesis, the concept of pre-human civilizations reminds us that the history of this planet still holds countless unsolved mysteries, and that there may always be stories buried beneath the dust of time, waiting to be discovered. Brutal sacrifice in ancient Ecuador. In recent years, archaeologists have uncovered a strange mass grave in the Manglares Valley of Ecuador. What they found inside this grave revealed a bloody and mysterious story from ancient times, leaving the entire scientific community stunned. Among the excavated remains, the most striking was the body of a young woman who was pregnant in her 7th to 9th month. But that was not all. The traces on her skeleton showed she had suffered a severe blow to the head and was missing a hand and a leg, clear signs of violence and a savage ritual. The archaeologists also found numerous sacrificial objects buried with the woman, creating a scene that was both sacred and chilling. There were seashells placed to cover the eye sockets of the dead, sharp obsidian blades arranged around the body, another human skull placed nearby, a crab claw resting on her abdomen, and many charred items scattered throughout the burial pit. These offerings all pointed to a complex sacrificial ritual, likely tied to special beliefs or religious customs of the ancient Montino people. Based on the evidence, scientists have put forward two main theories about the fate of the victim. The first suggests that the young woman, along with her unborn child, may have been sacrificed in a ritual offering meant to appeal to the gods for relief when drought and natural disasters threatened the community. Sacrificing a pregnant woman, the ultimate symbol of life and fertility, may have been the most desperate act people could take, hoping to exchange it for prosperity or peace for the entire tribe. The second theory proposes that the woman may have held a position of political or social importance within the Montino community. If so, her death could have been the result of power struggles, a form of purging or eliminating a rival through a public and brutal ritual. Whatever the true reason, what remains in this mass grave continues to raise countless unanswered questions about the beliefs, rituals, and cruelty of ancient societies. Societies we can only imagine today through the traces left beneath the earth. Ancient cheese production in Egypt. In the field of food archaeology, one of the most remarkable recent discoveries is an ancient block of cheese found at Saqqara, Egypt. This cheese is up to 2,600 years old and was preserved exceptionally well inside a clay jar. Not only is it a rare artifact that has survived from antiquity, but it also stands as clear evidence of the advanced level of food technology practiced by the ancient Egyptians. Archaeologists discovered this block of cheese while excavating the vast necropolis at Saqqara, a site home to many tombs and artifacts from the time of the pharaohs. Inside several carefully sealed clay jars, they found pieces of cheese still intact in their original shape, despite spending millennia underground. What is particularly noteworthy is that the cheese was made primarily from goat's milk and sheep's milk, two ingredients that were common in the cuisine of ancient Egypt. The ability to preserve food for long periods using clay jars shows that the Egyptians were not only skilled pyramid builders and inventors of writing, but also possessed deep knowledge of food and food safety. Their cheese-making and preservation techniques could be compared to any other civilization of the same era. Moreover, modern chemical analysis has revealed that this ancient Egyptian cheese contained high levels of acid, which made its flavor much stronger than modern cheeses, and also helped prevent the growth of harmful bacteria. This discovery not only expands our understanding of daily life in ancient Egypt, but also highlights their creativity and craftsmanship in food production. The 2600-year-old cheese block from Saqqara is living proof that people, even in the distant past, knew how to use natural resources to enrich their meals and preserve them for future generations. The doll tomb at Luxor, Egypt. In recent years, archaeologists have announced the discovery of a remarkable ancient tomb at the Dra Abu el Naga necropolis, located on the west bank of Luxor, Egypt. This tomb dates back to the 18th dynasty, the most prosperous era of ancient Egyptian civilization. What sets this tomb apart from many previous finds is the number of Ushabti figurines inside, up to 365 small statues, each carefully arranged in rows throughout the burial chamber. Ushabti figurines are small, human-shaped statues, usually crafted with great care by Egyptian artisans. According to ancient beliefs, each Ushabti would serve in place of the deceased, performing tasks for them in the afterlife, so they would not have to do hard labor themselves. The Egyptians believed that after death, the soul would still have to carry out work like farming, harvesting, building, and more in order to maintain eternal life. Therefore, 365 Ushabti street statues, one for each day of the year, were considered a loyal servant army, always ready to help their master whenever needed. Alongside this army of dolls, archaeologists also found the mummy of a young girl, estimated to be only about 15 or 16 years old. She was laid to rest on her side, a rather uncommon posture compared to other mummies. What makes this even more special is that she was still adorned with necklaces, bead strings, and many finely crafted pieces of jewelry, indicating she came from a wealthy or noble family. Right next to her mummy, researchers found a pair of sandals still perfectly preserved, despite having been buried underground for over 3,000 years. The excellent condition of these items has provided scientists with valuable clues about the daily life, customs, and spiritual beliefs of ancient Egyptians. The discoveries at the Dra Abu el Naga tomb not only add to our understanding of Egyptian burial rituals and worldviews, but also remind us that even after thousands of years, the spiritual values, beliefs, and human emotions invested in the afterlife have endured in their own unique way. Ancient Egyptian cosmetics. When people think of ancient Egyptian civilization, they often picture magnificent pyramids, mysterious statues of pharaohs, or treasures of gold and silver buried beneath the ground. However, another area that flourished in ancient Egyptian society was cosmetics, especially kohl, the familiar eyeliner used by both men and women of all social classes. Kohl was not simply a beauty product meant to accentuate the sharpness of the eyes. Scientists have discovered that the kohl used by ancient Egyptians was made from a variety of minerals, including galena, lead sulfide, malachite, copper carbonate, as well as animal fats and natural vegetable oils. People in those times used kohl to draw lines around their eyes, creating a striking style of makeup that remains popular even today. Beyond its cosmetic purpose, kohl also held deep medical and religious significance. With Egypt's harsh climate and frequent sandstorms, applying kohl around the eyes helped protect them from the bright sunlight and from harmful insects. The mineral ingredients in kohl also help prevent eye infections, a common health issue in this region. Additionally, the Egyptians believed that kohl could ward off evil spirits and provide spiritual protection, so it was often used in religious rituals as well as daily activities. Small containers of kohl made from stone, pottery, or precious metals have been found in ancient tombs, showing that cosmetics played an important role not just in daily life, but also in Egyptian burial practices. This makes it clear that cosmetics and personal care were significant elements of ancient Egyptian culture, contributing to the refinement and mystery of this legendary civilization. Prehistoric skull with bullet-like wound in Zambia. One of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries in recent times is an ancient skull unearthed in Zambia, Africa. This skull belonged to Homo heidelbergensis, an ancestor of modern humans, and is estimated to be between 125,000 and 300,000 years old. When scientists studied the skull, they found a small, perfectly round hole with edges that were extremely even and sharp, sparking an ongoing debate in the international scientific community. The strange perforation on the skull is perfectly circular, and the cut surface closely resembles what is typically seen in gunshot wounds in modern medicine. From a professional standpoint, bullet wounds create a round hole with radiating cracks around the point of impact. And on this prehistoric skull from Zambia, researchers observed similar characteristics. What astonished everyone was the age of the skull, since there is no known civilization from that era that possessed technology advanced enough to create weapons like guns or lead bullets. As a result, once news of this discovery was made public, numerous theories emerged to explain the origin of this mysterious hole. Some scientists believe the hole could have formed due to natural factors, such as the bite of a large carnivore, a heavy blow from a falling rock or sharp object, or even the long-term effects of weathering, which over hundreds of thousands of years could erode the bone and create a bullet-like hole. Others suggest it might be the result of a severe injury suffered in the harsh struggle for survival, where ancient people constantly faced risks from wild animals or natural disasters. Nevertheless, despite arguments based on natural explanations, there remain some who believe that this wound could be the trace of an event far beyond the imagination of modern humans. Some even speculate about the possibility of advanced technology or factors never before recorded in any prehistoric culture. These theories suggest that in the distant past, there may have existed highly developed civilizations, or perhaps there was intervention by extraterrestrial forces. To this day, the prehistoric skull with a bullet-like wound from Zambia remains a major mystery for the scientific world. All explanations so far remain speculative, with no conclusive evidence to determine exactly what caused the hole. This discovery serves as a reminder that the history of human evolution and existence still contains many unanswered mysteries, and that any archaeological find has the potential to change our understanding of humanity's distant past. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you found these mysteries fascinating, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming journeys. See you in the next video.